the March 3rd Village of Cross Plains Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Committee member Hicks. Committee member Hillebrand.
Here.
Committee member Cutler. Deb, can you hear me?
She's muted.
Oh, yeah. Using a new laptop.
Excellent. And the committee member Henry.
Here.
So occasionally people are freezing, like Jed just did.
Okay.
But he's
And
back now.
President Langfeld.
Here.
All right.
All right, thank you very much. We are at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Do we have anybody signed up, or is there anybody else on that?
There's nobody signed up, and I don't see any hands raised or anything.
Okay, then we will move to general business. Number 1 is discussion and possible approval of the February 3rd, 2021 Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee minutes. Do I have a motion?
A motion.
All
I'll
right, do I have
second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. All right, we'll go to number 2. This is the discussion and possible action on policy 2020-01, budgeting policy. Bobby, I guess I'm going to turn these last 2 over to you, how you want to handle it. I don't know if people want a summary of them or go right into questions and comments, or how we want to do this.
Sure. I can bring them up here. See if I can figure out how to operate Zoom here. So these policies, there's a Malia intern here. We created last year, and they were reviewed by the village board. When was it, like April? I think we kind of did them. So I guess if, I don't know if anyone has any questions on them or suggestions for changes or improvements or.
I have one suggestion. If you guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. If the departments can do also like a wish list, I mean, we just recently had the chief come with, once he got the less lethal passed, he then asked for $15,000. So having a list of, I hope to be asking for this money in the next coming year to make budgeting at least a little more less surprising.
Isn't that in the next policy, the capital improvement project or capital improvement?
But I don't think that it's necessarily a capital improvement, is it?
It was, yeah, that would,
Okay.
it should. Like with budgeting, we try to get it where you're correct, Deb. That's what we want people to plan. But it's difficult to say there isn't going to be something that comes up that's needed or an opportunity to get something in between that time. So you are absolutely correct that, and judges too, in the capital side, we try to go 5 years out.
Yeah,
but-
it would just seem like asking for an additional budget item in January or February was really quick.
It was, but I think what was happening there is you don't want to budget something that you're not sure there's going to be support for. So I think what you have to do first is make sure that there's support for that item and then put it in. And in this case, it got, a third part of it was the CARES Act and the reimbursement, so. But you are absolutely right. We try, that's the goal, to get things ahead of time.
Yeah, a question about just the verbiage, and Bobby, excuse me if I'm missing your title, but I know some things have changed as far as job descriptions and titles. So when we have a finance director, is that the proper term to be used, or can we do a more generic term or for that person? Or is that your
No, I think finance director would still be fine. Instead of finance director treasurer, I'm now finance director clerk, so I just left off the second half of the title anyway, so.
Okay. And then I don't know if it would fall into this policy or not, but probably more of a board or the president's decision, but like budgets, when they submit them, I know we were required a number of years to submit budgets with like a 3% decrease. And while instead of always thinking budgets mean we're going to get an increase because it's a budget time, we need more money, and there are things we can't control, but we found in our group that when we have a 3% decrease, a mandatory 3% decrease, that we really sat down and looked at everything and what do we really need, or if we had to get rid of something, what would it be? And that gave us the ability to, prioritize what we want, but also realize if we had to lose something, what's the low hanging fruit to get rid of? And that helps us out, because I think that's an option we should be looking at too, is it gives each department the ability to think what could they do without if they had to, so. And I don't know if I'll fit in here.
Yeah, I think, and clearly I'm used to where the city of Madison used to always ask for, let's just use your 3%, a 3% reduction, a zero cost increase, and a 3% increase, what they would look like. Again, we're this last year, and it's something in progress because it's changing this year. What I tried to do, just to make it much easier to understand, but yet give some discretion to department heads, I told them that they could raise their budget 1%, and then anything over that, they had to do a supplement request. And that we ended up with below 1% increase in taxes. So, the end result I thought was pretty good. Again, there was, there's pluses and minuses to all of that. I don't have a problem, actually having a better discussion on that, but I can tell you that's what we did last year, because it got too confusing to go page by page, and some of those costs are spread over numerous line items. So, that's kind of how we worked it for the 2021 budget, but certainly that would be an exercise and something we could do. And I'm not totally opposed to that.
I do think the way we did the 2021 budget was a lot better than in past years. Where we, like you said, we were given an amount that we could raise, the 1%, and then anything over that we had to ask special. And I just thought that really worked well. It streamlined, the meetings went a lot quicker.
I thought so too. And I think what it really, for me too, it showed where people wanted to increase. And before, it was difficult for me to follow the money.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, it was simple. Plus it gave department heads a little discretion. If they saw a higher priority, they could, if they could get that done without coming back for more money, I think that's a real plus. So yeah, I was happy with how it turned out, no doubt about it. But I know what Tim is talking about. It's an exercise that, like I say, I'm very used to. So I don't think it's a bad thing to do. It's just, like you say, it's going to take more time for staff to put it together. That's one of the downsides of it.
So essentially you're prepping more than one budget, and then is that what's going on?
Yeah, you basically are. We used to always do 3 with a cut, no, zero, and then an increase. Now, who looked at them, I really don't know. Anything else, Tim?
No, that's fine. I just thought there's an interest that we might want to look at in the future that
Mhm.
gives everybody a chance to look at if they had to get rid of something, what's slow,
No, like I say, I'm not opposed to that. I agree with you. There's some real positives for doing that.
And that may be something, as the president, you guys decide to do that. I don't know if it should be in a policy either. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think we're still trying to find our way through on that, but I would think once we get a system, it would certainly be placed in here.
All right. Anything else on the budget policy? Otherwise, we can move on to the capital.
I just had two things. And the first one being and maybe it's because of the size of our community and our overall budget, but I always like capital projects where $10,000 or a life, so we have 10 years or more. And maybe that's not feasible for our community. I don't know.
I can tell you that used to be actually for the city, it was more 25,000 in the 10-year. But I think as the caps and stuff, I think the definition for capital funds are getting a little bit more expanded. And I think everybody's doing that now. And I can tell you, the city of Madison's even putting salaries now into it. And I know we did at one time, but we've certainly moved in the direction of trying to keep larger items in capital. But you're correct. There are some things that we do in capital. At some point, I'd like to switch over to operating, but you run into the levy limits on that.
Yeah, and I thought maybe part of that was years back where that was the way to get around the levy limit, would be putting things that probably shouldn't be in capital into capital because of the dollar amount was less than 5. So we skirted that issue, and that I don't think that's something we want to do, is have things that aren't, there's $6,000 and put that in capital because that's our way around it to make sure we get it. But your capital budgets are pretty tight too, so they may not get it in there either. Just a thought. And then the other one was, again, just the terminology, village administrator. Is that the proper title with the changes that have been made, or it's kind of nitpicking or splitting things, but I don't know.
Right, like his official title is what, village administrator / economic and tourism development, or
Okay,
something. So
sure.
it's
That's
just
fine.
kind of shortened.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm fine. I just want to make sure we didn't have a policy that we didn't have a person sitting in that position to see. So I think it's fine.
Anybody else have any comments or suggestions? And we will be in getting a little bit, well, we for sure we'll be getting involved in this part of it. I was going to wait for the 2022, and we'll be looking at years 2 through 5. Anything else here? Or are we good? All right. I guess I'll take it under advisement and on looking at the cut, equal, plus type budgeting. Let me bounce it off a few people and see what their feelings are on it. But I do think it's at times a worthy exercise to go through. All right, we'll move on to number 4. And this one's going to be a little different than what it says. We'll do updates and stuff, but I want to kind of frame that a little bit. So it looks like everybody's done some outstanding work and moved at a heck of a quick pace, faster than I guess I thought. So I'm going to go around, and my thought is that the next meeting, I'd like two of the topics reported out. And what I'm looking, the process for that is within 2 weeks of the next meeting, we would send Bobby the written documents. She'd get them to us 7 to 10 days before the meeting. At the meeting, one or two of the members of the smaller teams would do about a 15-minute presentation on the topic. And then we would open it up for comments, suggestions, questions, and then decide where we would move it. So I'm thinking each one would be, I'm looking at giving about a half hour, 15 minutes for presentation, 15 minutes to have discussion. You know, it may be where it needs to go back, get more information, whatever, but then decide kind of the status. Does it move to the board? Does it move back to get it a little bit more complete, or where is it at? So I would be looking at April's meeting, we would do two of them. And then May's meeting, we would do one. So that's one thing I'd like people to know, if they feel comfortable that their projects are at that point, that they would be able to present to our group. And then the second is, I'd like to know your feeling on, do we continue? Did it work well having a couple people on it, or should we go solo on it? What are your views on the process for this one example? Because in May, what I'd like to do is then go through and depending on that discussion, deciding if we're going to pair up, we pair up, or when someone's done with their presentation, if they're ready to go to the board, they present to the board and they want to start another one, I'm not going to hold them back. So I kind of want to feel on how this went and how you think we should be doing it in the future, because it is, you know, a new system. So if we can just go around and I'll let everybody speak on those topics. Does it make sense to everybody? Does someone have any questions on what I'm looking for? All right. Since I got Tim on the screen, why don't we start with you?
Well, I have a draft document that I started. I know I just sent it to Bobby yesterday, I think late. I'm sure she didn't have a chance to get it out, but I kind of did maybe some background of what we're looking at with the village does currently. And I researched calling out to different or municipalities around here, see what they do for leaf pickup in their community. And then wrote something up, and Amelia was great enough to go through and kind of clean it up and edit it and put it in a better format than I had it. So I think in this case, calling around was a one person job, because you can kind of get every community, just kind of goes explain to them what you're looking for, but then come together as a team to try to put it together for a presentation. But we're a ways into it, and I think we probably have a possible report ready for if we're going down the right track. And I guess that's one of my concerns, is that we get this out and you guys can look at it and see if I'm going the right direction as far as what we're looking for in leaf pickup.
Okay. So you guys might be ready for the next meeting then for a presentation?
Right. If this format, and maybe Bobby, if you could send that out, we have time, and people can look at it already, wouldn't have to wait 2 weeks. But I'm want to make sure I'm on the right track with what I'm doing, and Amelia and I already. So before we continue on.
Okay, I'm not really sure there's a right or wrong track. I think we're trying to just go through this. I think we'll eventually develop that, but okay, all right. And how's it working with being on with a team, or is it good, or would you give me some feedback on, is this the way to go? Is there a different?
Sorry, I'm having camera trouble, obviously, you know, just to quote a lawyer, I'm not a tree, but Anyway, Tim did most of the work, so I think the partner thing worked great for me. But I mean, I think it's nice to have people to bounce it back and forth on. It might work better, had I been slightly more engaged. I did help with the report a bit, and I can, do some heavy lifting on the presentation if that's helpful to Tim. I don't want to completely shirk my duties.
All right, well, good.
And for us, because I'm retired, I had the time to do this, just not keep calling. I didn't have anything else that interfered. And so that helped in that case, I think, as well, who your partners are, what time frame they have to do.
All right. I guess what I'll do is put you down as tentative then and take a look at it, and I'll let you know as soon as possible and on the reporting out. Does that sound okay?
Fine with me.
Sounds good.
All right.
Did you need that report, Jay, or did Tim send that to you already?
No, I'll need it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, Tim did send it. No, I have Tim's. I haven't read it yet, but I do remember getting it. Yep. All right, I'll let Deb do ours.
Well, I think ours is, for want of a better phrase, a very emotionally. I've found all the pros and cons. It comes down to, does the village board want to upset the entire village by proposing a wheel?
Deb, you're cutting, you're getting
Or
frozen.
them.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I guess I'm going to agree with Deb that we will be ready to do a presentation. I think we just have, her and I have to just kind of iron out so we get down to one. But I think we're at that point right now. So we definitely are a go for that. So I think we can go for sure. Jed?
Yeah, that sounds good. And Kip says hi.
Yeah, and I'll be in touch with you.
I'll be here.
I think I'm pretty much ready. I had a 20-page report with a whole bunch of graphs and numbers and everything to report tonight. So I'm pretty much done. I know, Jay, you and I kind of split up things. As far as the team thing, I mean, I think for me, it made sense to do this on my own. But I do think that it's worthwhile to have someone go back through and redo the numbers on their own and create a larger sample size. Because the numbers, I was pretty surprised by the numbers that I found.
Yeah, and I do apologize that I did not give you, I have my notes for my half, but I never did. So I kind of dropped the ball with you, but I will get in touch with you too. I'll read over your report and then I'll send you what I have to see if we can merge the two together. And
What was your topic again?
Tax rates.
His was, this one, we were working on comparative tax rates. And Deb and I was working on the wheel tax. Sorry about that.
No, that's not.
And I will vouch, Jed's graphs and charts were great. He did a really thorough report. It looked great.
And Jay, I don't know if we're not presenting till next week. I sent my stuff to Bill yesterday in hopes that he would look it over and try to double check the math and the different things, because I was surprised on how poorly it skewed us tax wise as a village. So I think it might be worth, I could personally do it, but I think it would be a good exercise for somebody else to go through it, because I was surprised how much I learned having to go through the numbers and figure it out.
Okay, I will clearly take a look at that. So you think we'd be ready by next month?
I'm ready. I mean,
Okay.
I can present tonight.
Well, I'd like everybody to have an opportunity to see ahead of time. So otherwise it's just a presentation. I'd rather have it a presentation and a discussion. So we can certainly now, if people have idle hands and they would want to take on another one off that list, we can always start another one, but let's plan on, let's try to get them all done next meeting. We'll have to shorten things up. For people willing to go a little bit longer, maybe an hour and 15 minutes to get them all done. I don't want to short people. The main thing on here is to have, we've spent a lot of time researching and stuff and doing the numbers, so it's important that we all understand what we're looking at and what's being presented. So I don't want to rush through the end product. I really want to spend some time there so we're the most educated on those topics. So let me take a look at all of these and kind of do a best guess estimate on the time of it. And if everybody's okay to maybe go even an hour and a half, let's, I'd like to take them all at the same time if everybody's ready. There's no sense having them sit on a shelf for a while. Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so since everybody seems to be way ahead of the game, are there interests in tonight, looking, since we still have about a half hour, looking at other ones to take on, or do you want to just catch your breath and wait to the next meeting to pick them? I can remind you what they were, you can think about it. What's the pleasure of the group?
I mean, personally, I would like somebody to take some of the other communities that I looked at and try to create a larger sample size and a different set of eyes on it as well.
All right.
I'm pretty confident in the numbers. And like I said, it was something that I had no clue about. I mean, my brain hurt from all the math that I had to do to figure this out. And to basically take equalized property values and then convert it into fair market value and compare all of them and then break it down by taxing entity. It's complicated, and I think that a lot of people would benefit, or somebody else would benefit from going through that process and understanding it. Because I know when I talked to Bill Chang yesterday, he didn't seem to quite understand it either. So if he's not, quite there either, I think it would be a good exercise for people to understand.
All right, well, I'm gonna do it for sure. I'll do that. Is there another member that would like to take a look at it? Because we can certainly ship it to you. All right. Well, Jed, I'll for sure do it, and I'll see which municipalities you used versus the ones that I've been looking at. Did you factor in services at all, or did you just go straight taxes with equalized fair market?
I tried to look basically in what my report and the way I laid it out is I tried to pick communities that were nearby, pretty much neighboring communities. And the way that I thought of it is, if I moved the house that I live in now to a neighboring community, what would that do to my taxes? And so I started with Wanakee, Middleton, Black Earth, and Mount Horeb. I could not find a community that was of equal size. It was either kind of the 1,500 population range or 7,000 and up. So I couldn't find anything equal there. All of those communities had police departments, fire departments, and then the level of services,
Yeah.
we could go through 100 comparisons there, but I felt like those were fair. And basically what I came up with is we're double digits percentage higher than everyone. If you look at just the municipality, we're paying 28% higher than Middleton is. And every community that I looked at, we were significantly higher. And so at the very end, I tried to account for potential bias because I went into this thinking that our taxes were high. And so I looked at Brooklyn, which is the highest ranked village. There's 20 villages in Dane County. Brooklyn has the worst taxes, but they pay 55% less to their municipality than we do, which means all of their taxes are going to the school district.
Oh, so you looked at total taxes, not just the village portion.
I looked at everything. I looked at the total
Oh.
mill rate, and then I broke it down by individual, because the only thing that we as a committee and a village can control is the amount of taxes that are going to the village. I
Correct.
also compared mill rates, and if you look at the Dane County mill rate, it's gone up 5% in the last 10 years. The Cross Plains mill rate's gone up 17%. So
Okay.
there seems to be a disproportionate tax in our community versus nearby communities. And like I said, I tried to offset that by going to the worst tax community, and it made things look worse because they're paying so little to their municipality and it's all going to the school. So, could you compare the other ones? Yes. The other thing that I thought were the cities were going to be cheaper because, the bigger you got, Wanakee and Middleton were 28% and 26% less than us. And I thought size would be an indicator because they can spread out the tax burden. But they were sort of an abnormality. We were more expensive than 4 cities and less expensive than 4 cities.
Interesting.
And the numbers based on Dane County, we were more expensive than every single town in Dane County. We were 14th out of 20 villages, and we were middle of the road for cities. And again, that doesn't take the whole picture because then you have to break it down to see where you're paying that amount to. I mean, as far as an overall mill rate, we're fairly average. I think we're about a point over average for villages. But once you break down that to the percentage, it's disproportionately going to the village in comparison to other villages and cities that I compared.
Okay, well, I'll take a look at it. It seems a little strange, but I'll take a look at it and see how the numbers.
I'll look too, because I noticed I did work for mortgage people not that long ago. The last couple of years, I've done a lot of temporary jobs. And it was like in the last decade, our property taxes jumped significantly. And then with the rising cost of housing, I'm kind of curious how many people in Cross Plains could afford to move to Cross Plains today. And I know I couldn't have.
Yeah.
And I think my
All right.
house is worth like $100,000 more than it used to be.
No, I think this is great. This is exactly what we want to look at. So why don't we send it to Deb too, and we'll all take a look at it. And then we'll just bounce things off and see where we go and check the numbers and everything. But we will, let me just bounce back here. Is doing 3 presentations in one meeting, is that going to be too much for people's brains to absorb? And
I think it really depends on if we get the information far enough in advance. I think for my stuff, it's really complicated. I mean, I spent a boatload of time trying to dissect these numbers and make sense of it because I'd never done it before. And if people have a chance to go through and really dive in and maybe do some of their own calculations, it will make a little more sense. But, if you're just seeing it that night, if the packet comes out a day or two beforehand or 3 days, it's probably not enough to digest it well enough.
No, as I said, the plan originally was to get it out 7 to 10 days ahead, but I think we can get them out as soon as they're ready to go. So I think we can do that. We're not gonna be doing something where you only get a day or a couple days to do it. It defeats the purpose of this. So originally what I thought, 2 weeks before the meeting, they have to be to Bobby, and then she'll send them out, from there to everybody. That would be 7, I'm thinking in case it hits a Friday and a weekend, she does it Monday, it's going to give you, at least 10 days, but a minimum of 7 to look at these things. But so I'm gonna schedule. It sounds like we're pretty ready to go for all 3 of them. So why don't we just think about that we may have to go a little bit over our 1 hour meeting promise. But I don't want to sit on these if they're ready to go.
Could we give Jeds more time? I can't imagine with how complicated it is, we're gonna get it all tonight.
Well, no, yeah, we'll take whatever. I'm not, I'm just trying to give people kind of a format and some guidance on it. No, we're gonna spend as much time as we need on all of these, and if we don't get to one of them, then we'll move them to the next meeting. I mean, none of this is so critical that it has to be to the board the next month. These are, information, items, and so I want them really good products by the time we bring to the board. So no, there's no pressure in it. We'll take whatever time is needed for these presentations. Yeah, we're not going to short anybody on them. I think they're all important. We want to make sure everybody's well educated on them, and they're the best product we can produce to bring to the board or another committee. I can promise you that.
I do have a question. So with the wheel tax and the leaf pickup, there's obviously like going to be a recommendation or a suggestion. So with the tax rate presentation, like what's our end goal? Like what are we?
Okay, first of all, I want to correct, there is not going to be any recommendation on the wheel tax or the leaf pickup. We are a fact-finding, research, educational committee. I don't want personal views. You can do that as a resident. We are going to lose credibility if we come in for one side of these. We are neutral, and I know it's hard, but what we're doing is just going to do a report saying, hey, like I can speak on the wheel tax since I've seen a lot of the work. It's going to be what it is, basically, how it works, what other communities are doing it, what it would go for, and the pros and cons for it. And that is the package. It'll go to the board that way, and then they can decide what they want to do. If we start recommending, then they're just going to see us at, oh, you only took it because you want the wheel tax, or you don't want the wheel tax. We lose credibility, in my opinion. So we're just fact finders and researchers.
Okay.
In terms of my half of the tax rate, the way I see it is, I figured if we fell in line in the middle or with what was average with normal people, with normal communities, then that was kind of it. Hey, look, we're in line. If we were high or low, then, there were some questions. And I think, from what I've seen, if the data pans out and a larger sample size continues to confirm that, then I think the next question is to look further into that as why is that expense?
Exactly. That's exactly right on the money. Why is that? And then that's what the board needs to start changing. Exactly. You're right on it. That's exactly how I see it.
And so, Deb, as far as my stuff is concerned, my report's completely done. Jay hasn't looked at it. I don't know if he wants to look at it first before it goes out, but I mean, it can go out to everybody tonight or tomorrow, and you guys can look at it and call me and ask questions or work on it over the next month. And then hopefully maybe that alleviates some of it, because I don't think most normal people can digest that in a day. I mean, it took a whole bunch of conversations with a whole bunch of people to figure it out. And the fair market compensation, luckily that came from a newspaper article that Bill sent me 2 days ago. And because I was having trouble coming up with that calculation and that newspaper article. So I have not vetted that. I'm not an economist. My major's in communication, but I feel confident in the numbers, the way that I cross-referenced them and got to each place. I'm confident, but I think someone else should look at it. And I think you really have to dig into the numbers to make it make sense.
Yeah. So why don't we send it out to everybody? Everybody can take a look at it and dig into it, and Jed's lead on it so we can feed him what we find or what we think are concerns or questions on it.
Sounds good. I'll send that out to everyone tomorrow.
Anything else from anybody?
No.
Alrighty, so just so I can summarize, we're gonna send our reports as soon as possible. Next meeting, we're gonna look at them all and decide if there's more digging that needs, if they can be moved on. Does that make, we're good with that? So that's gonna be kind of the strategy on it, and then we'll look at the next round.
When's the next meeting?
Should be,
The 7th of April?
Seventh, yeah.
yep, the 7th, yep, April 7th.
Does anybody have the sidewalk replacement policy?
No, the three that we talked about tonight are the only three assigned.
I'd be willing to kind of maybe call around communities and see if they do.
That would be a good one, because I was hoping that one, and I'm Michael's wants to get on, he wants to help with streetlight cost one, and I think that's a real good one, because that could actually save us some money, so. Okay, sounds good, Tim. All right, any other comments or anything? Otherwise, I'll take a motion. Oh,
Ask on the street light. So are we just concerned about streetlight fees that are being assessed on owner versus rent? Or
yeah, there's a whole billing process that they use now. Michael told me Monday night that MG&E is trying to simplify it a little bit, so I don't know if we've gotten a new bill that clearly states which ones they own, which ones we own, the rent and stuff. So we might want to hold off a little bit until, at least it sounded like they were doing some modifications to clean up their billing process.
and I was looking more at and maybe this isn't even part of what you're looking at, but just even the placement. So when our subdivision went in, the streetlights went in, they put one in the corner of on Bourbon by each intersection, but then when Bourbon Road got finished, they also put them in, so there's close streetlights to close streetlights because of the designs when they came in. So I'm wondering if there's a lot of streetlights that we either can combine into one or don't need at all, but that may be a bigger.
Yeah, but see now, we just at Plan passed the streetlight policy, and that has in there how far apart streetlights should be. So hopefully that won't happen anymore if the board passes this policy. But you're talking about, are there ones that we can take down and save us some money?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Buying them, or because of just when the streets went in and the construction.
Yeah,
I mean, we can always look into it, but I think the big money on this is what you pay for maintenance.
Right.
For one that is leased, you pay like $12. Ones that you own, you only pay $1. So there's a, and that's a monthly charge. So it's considerable change. It's just, like I say, he told me that they're changing the billing, but that is another one I'd like to look at. But sidewalk replacement is clearly one we should, because we talked a little bit about that that was kind of talked about at the staff meeting too, where a lot of villages have something like that. And there's different ways of doing it.
Okay.
Jay, this is Michael. Can I talk real quick?
Go ahead.
Yeah, like with what Tim is talking about, like when I did that initial like assessment of streetlights, that was an area where I recognized that there were 3 there and there's 3 over on Continental as well, and they're very close. Like for removal, like those are opportunities to save money. It just depends on if we want to pursue them.
All right, and that's something we'll get on the table to look at a little bit later. All right. Anything else? Otherwise, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have is there something you wanted to say, Tim?
No.
Oh, okay. So I have a motion and a second for adjournment. I really want to thank everybody. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Thank you very much for all your work. I look forward to next meeting.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Yep.
Night.